Greetings! This is Name Your Game, a video game podcast brought to you by SharcTank.com. Each episode, we have a new guest with us so we can talk about their favorite games from the past and present. So my name's Dane.
And I'm Tim.
And with us, we have...
a fellow Seattle local, a YouTuber. She does unboxings and Let's Plays and that kind of stuff. Her YouTube channel is Circuits and Coffee. It's Anna Kerr. How's it going, Anna?
It's going pretty well. How are you?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm a little sleepy, but...
Wake up!
Okay, I'm awake.
Get some coffee.
Yeah, and Circuits.
Just pee on your face.
Don't do that.
Okay. So, Anna, we got a question for you.
Yes.
What is your favorite video game of all time?
Oof, you just gotta drop that right off the bat.
Boom!
Yeah.
We always do, fully knowing that it's not an easy question to answer because we're bad people.
Yeah, you can just interpret it as, what's a game that you love that you want to talk about?
You know, I honestly think I would have to go with Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2.
Oh, that's a really good one.
I remember getting that for my birthday, and I think the music in that game is just so freaking awesome, and the high replay value of that. I played that game so much growing up. I have a lot of nostalgia for it, so that is my answer.
Yeah, that game is really great, especially as a follow-up to Super Mario World, which, you know, is to this day such an iconic video game.
Oh yeah, I love Super Mario World.
But the fact that they went with such a different take on it and still called it a sequel is really interesting to me because it could have gone so much worse and ended up being amazing in its own way. And I really love it. There's so much cool stuff about that game. I like how as you get from world to world and you play through the game, the song in the menu changes. It gets more complex, more instruments get added to it. That's a really good choice. I really like that game as well.
Yes.
So what specifically do you remember about Mario World 2 that just really gripped you or that you really remember fondly?
I remember just the art style of it.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen anything like that, and I got that game. Part of the nostalgia built into it is I got that game for my birthday, and
Awesome.
I happened to be at a dude ranch with my parents, and I got it for my birthday, and it was so disheartening to unwrap that and know I was nowhere near technology for about another 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
But as soon as I played it, I agree with you about the music and the menu. Just when that game starts up, that simple, fun, optimistic tune, and then you just, you know, in a way, you kind of go through hell, you know, trying to save your brother.
Yeah.
But I love the cave music when they're underground and just kind of, that's what I really remember from it. I think the music and the art style, all the fun, like being able to turn into that mole tank and just go through that soft, like you really understood the textures in that game.
Definitely. Yeah, it kind of had a look about it like it was almost colored in with crayons. It's sort of a sketchy, but still sort of like a crayon kind of look. Or maybe not crayons. I don't know what I'm thinking of. Maybe kind of a colored pencil-y or like a colorful kind of charcoal or something.
So I really love Super Mario World. I've never played Yoshi's Island.
That's a crime.
Yes, but you should. You should, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it might be on the Virtual Console.
Probably is.
Yeah, it's a really fun game.
Well, how does it compare to Super Mario World in terms of, like, is it similar in structure, or what is it?
Kind of, because,
game,
I mean, it is a platforming game where, you know, you kind of go through the levels, and I believe that there are different ways to beat some of the levels, just like in Mario World, where you can kind of go through a different door and then it takes you somewhere else in the world map and that kind of thing. So it's similar to that, in which it does have secrets and whatnot, but not quite as many. I'd say the world in Super Mario World 2 isn't quite as complex because Super Mario World has just so many different things that lead to other things. It has this Star World and special levels and all of that. Mario World 2 doesn't quite have that, but it still has quite a bit of content, and I know that there are things like collecting all 8 red coins in each level, and a lot of stuff that you can collect that when you do that, it does sort of open up other little bonuses and stuff.
Okay. So Anna, you've played Super Mario World, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So what set Yoshi's Island above the original? Because I really love the original.
So you want to talk about it?
No doubt. For me, I really feel like while it is a sequel, I feel like the two games are just so different. I think the variety of levels in Yoshi's Island, like there's one where It's called Get Fuzzy.
Or touch Fuzzy, Get Dizzy.
Yes, you got it.
I love that level.
Where if you run into these little flying wisps, your screen turns just into an acid trip. Yeah. And it has like this weird music. And Yoshi looks kind of cracked out. And that game is just filled with fun, you know? And not that Super Mario World isn't, but I like being able to play as Yoshi, but you're responsible for Baby Mario.
Yeah.
And oh god, and that was annoying. If you got hit too many times, Mario would pop up in a bubble and start crying, and you'd have to pop the bubble and rescue him before the enemy took him away and you lost the level.
Yeah,
but
like it would count down.
Baby Mario cry, you grow to quickly hate that sound. So as soon as he starts crying, you're like, turn it off, and just like go running after him.
I would actually be willing to bet that if you polled a large number of people who are familiar with that game and said, what is your least favorite aspect of Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island? 99% of the time, it would be Baby Mario's crying sound effect.
Yes.
Because I have heard lots of complaints about that just online and whatnot. Some people even just hate the game because of that sound effect, which I think is kind of overboard. Because really, I mean, it's just a wee, wee, wee kind of looped.
If it's happening a lot, though, I can see it ruining an experience.
Just don't get hit.
Or just
if you're not good at the platforming, you're going to hear that sound a lot.
Yeah, that's true. You kind of get used to it.
Is that the origin of Baby Mario?
Yeah, canonically, somehow, yeah, Baby Mario was rescued by
because like
Yoshis.
I remember, I can't remember what, I think it was Double Dash Mario Kart where they had was that the first Mario Kart that had the Baby Marios?
I think it was. Yeah. I think Baby Mario and Baby Luigi.
And I was just like, what are these babies? Like, why is this? That's so weird. And because I guess it's because I'd never played.
Well, Nintendo does kind of have that side of weirdness to them, you know, and I think Baby Mario and Baby Luigi just kind of hanging out with their adult selves, and it's not even like their parents or anything like that. It's just future versions of themselves.
Right, exactly.
And Baby Luigi, they gave him the weirdest voice. He's like, Baby Luigi. Kind of sounds maybe like a high-pitched Wario or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Baby Luigi time.
Yeah, so the Baby Mario and Luigi are originally from Yoshi's Island. Yeah, the gameplay is just really different. It's more fun in a way just because it's kind of wackier. You know, you sometimes you can turn into a Yoshi helicopter, and it's just like a big Yoshi head with a propeller and fly around.
That's fun.
That's like one of my favorite. I love the helicopter, but I really liked the tank, the mole tank, where you just dig. That was my favorite. Oh, and then you can also turn into a train.
Yes.
And so it's like, while you don't have suits that you change into in Super Mario World, you get a morph into these fun different.
You turn into vehicles.
Yeah. Well, there's also like a super baby power up too, where Baby Mario gets a little cape and he just runs really fast and he can run on the ceilings and walls.
Huh.
Yeah.
And the levels are sort of designed around those, so you're kind of expected to find that power up and then use it to sort of get through a portion of the level or collect, you know, whatever's hidden in the area. So the level design was really clever in that game too. And I liked the boss fights. The boss fights are so great. In that game. Like one of the first bosses you fight, I think it's a mini boss. He's sort of, I think, halfway through the first world, and it's Bashful Bert.
Oh my god, yes.
And he's just this big round dude with like just a little bit of hair, or maybe he's bald, I can't remember, and he's got these like light blue pinstripe pants, and you have to make his pants fall down. He gets really shy.
Yeah, as soon as it comes down, he turns bright red, and then the level like does this little ending sequence, but it's that humor again.
Definitely. So if Yoshi's Island is one of your favorite games of all time, you know, from your past, you have a lot of nostalgia there. Can you think of a game that has affected you almost similarly, a game that you've really loved but is more recent, something that's come out maybe in the last 5 years that's really blown you away?
That's a really good question. I like to try to just think about what first pops into my head.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Kind
of go with like my gut feeling.
Yeah.
And the first one that popped into my head was Mass Effect.
Okay.
Good choice.
That is a great choice.
I remember playing the first one, and like I wasn't hyped, you know, when I heard it coming out. I don't recall what prompted me to pick it up, other than maybe I was looking for another Xbox title.
Yeah.
And I just remember getting just so wowed by how you just get thrown into the story, but it builds so well, and how each game progressed the story. I would take the time to read every little log that would come up to learn the history.
Yeah, and like
you could
planet
spend hours reading
descriptions.
that.
Yeah, that game was so lore heavy. Like, and it was, that's really what it was. Like, even though, you know, there are people who might have certain complaints about the first Mass Effect versus the second and third in terms of maybe gameplay and how it feels a little clunkier because, of course, it's their first one in the series, you know, it's their first effort.
Yeah.
But what it really did amazingly was just set the tone, set the story. Really, it was the best way to introduce everybody to that world because my feeling on it was like, holy crap, this is the most interesting original science fiction story, in my opinion, in a long time. Like, almost, you know, Star Wars level.
That's what I was going to say.
Absolutely.
Could have been the Star Wars of our generation had it not been ruined by Mass Effect 3. Excuse me.
You see, I feel like I'm one of the rare ones that I don't feel that way about Mass Effect 3. And that just might be because when I have a choice to, you know, Paragon or Renegade, I'm always going to go Paragon. I feel awful if I choose Renegade.
Yeah.
And so the ending to me really felt natural with the route that I was going. And I haven't replayed it as Renegade, so I can't speak for the other actions or decisions and then that outcome. But, you know, I had some questions about, you know, stuff that happened in all 3 endings where I'm just like,
sure.
That's kind of ridiculous. But overall, for me, I was pleased with the ending that I got.
I personally wasn't a big fan of the endings. I don't think that I was as displeased with them as Tim was and as maybe some other people were, but I also, you know, was kind of put off by them. I think Mass Effect 3 as a whole, I really enjoyed. They did some things really, really well, but I will have to agree that I really, really feel they could have done the ending better or the endings better. I do agree with you, you know, in terms of the sort of choice that your character might make. You know, if I put myself into my character's shoes and think, well, if this ridiculous scenario did come upon my character, I guess that is the choice he would have made. But the questions about why that was the direction the story writers went is still in mind. You know, I wish that that's not how it ended up shaking out personally.
And I guess one of my problems is that I know what the original story was supposed to be because a lot of people don't know this, but the writer, the guy who wrote Mass Effect 1, he was he co-wrote Mass Effect 2 and then was completely gone for Mass Effect 3. And his story had an ending, and they completely threw that out and made up a new one for Mass Effect 3. And I mean, I'll admit that the ending that he had was probably would have upset a lot of people too and was really depressing, but it was consistent. The tone made sense and everything fell into place. Like
I probably would have been pretty bummed though if it was something super depressing.
In the moment, I might have. I guess, like, you know, I haven't even touched Mass Effect 3 since the ending for lots of reasons. But you know, I was really upset in the moment for several reasons. A lot had to do with a lack of closure. A lot of it just had to do with, you know, how the 3 different endings were essentially the exact same thing with different colored explosions. I mean, obviously there were some details that were different, but
yeah,
you know, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I played through Mass Effect 1 5 times and I played through Mass Effect 2 3 times and I was ready to play through Mass Effect 3
several times.
Exactly.
Plus you sunk so much of your life just into the series as a whole. So into a bad ending.
Yeah, because, you know, if I was the person being interviewed and you asked me what's my favorite game of all time, I would have said Mass Effect 1.
So you mean your original favorite game of all time?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Like, of all time, my favorite game is Mass Effect 1.
Sure.
Still is.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Anyway, I've kind of lost my point I'm trying to make.
Besides the fact that
I read all of the novelizations in the universe, and like it rubbed me the wrong way. The ending did in lots of ways, but there were certain parts of Mass Effect 3 that were so beautifully done, and I brought tears to my eyes. Morden's ending specifically, I was crying.
I was too. But alas, I feel like the negative aspects of Mass Effect 3 have been discussed heavily all over the internet. I mean, this was your answer for...
Yeah, Mass Effect 1, right? Mass Effect 1 was so great. Did you like the Mako, driving around in the Mako? Did you like it or hate it? Because some people, it's really mixed.
Yeah, I kind of dreaded it. I'm like, oh, fucking another tremor, you know? Like,
yeah, no, definitely.
Like, can I just get to point A for the love of God?
I'm right there with you. I liked certain aspects of it, but yeah, there was too much giant worms. and B, walls that you were kind of forced to like drive up at like a crazy like 90-degree angle.
I loved driving around the Mako.
It was so goofy, and like anytime I would actually get to the point where you get out of the Mako and go in and fight a bunch of dudes, I got really excited because I was like, I want more dudes to fight. And I actually really enjoyed the combat for as clunky as it was and how they hadn't really developed the cover system yet. I really enjoyed the combat. I think maybe because the biotics powers were really fun and really unique. And I just, any chance I could get to just like throw people around with my mind, regardless of circumstances, had always really excited me in the game. So driving my Mako for 5 hours, exaggerating, to get from point A to point B was never what I really wanted to do personally. So I'm glad you agree with me there, because I think the last couple times we've talked about Mass Effect on this show, the person's been like, you know, I kind of like driving around in the Mako. And Tim was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I liked exploring the planets. And if that meant driving around the Mako, that's what I had to do.
Yeah. Well, it was a hell of a lot better than probing the planets in 2 and 3.
Oh,
that's my big,
God.
I hated that in 2. Like, that was such a huge, because I, you know, especially someone like me who liked the Mako, to replace it with the worst minigame ever. Like,
yeah, it was like a Flash minigame.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of me was kind of relieved that I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to fly to every single planet. But now it's like, okay, let me figure out if I can find the sweet spot, and yay, there it is. You know, got to do this 20,000 times.
Yeah. So who are your favorite characters?
I really loved Tally.
Okay,
and
awesome.
Everybody loves Tally.
Well, and so much so that when I got one of my cats, I named my cat Tally.
Oh, okay.
The really unfortunate part, I got her when I was playing through Mass Effect 3. This cat is a little special. Yeah. And so then every time Shepard would be like, Tally, I would kind of think of my special cat. And it kind of, you know, Tally's kind of really awesome in Mass Effect, and it kind of made some dissonance, which was unfortunate. Yeah. But it made me laugh. I was like, yep, Shepard's yelling at my retarded cat.
Yeah, Tally, she was such a great character, and I in Mass Effect 3, I actually sided with the Geth. And I don't know if you did during that choice, if you know what happens to Tally, but that was the most heartbreaking moment in the whole series for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I fixed the Geth and stuck with Tally too. Like, I feel like I got my cake and my ice cream, so to speak, because I went with the Geth, right? And then you upload, right? You lose. What was his name? The
Legion.
Legion. You lose Legion, but then you upload Legion's data into all of the Geth, and then they all become badass like Legion. And then Tally's people are like, oh, hey, I guess they're cool now. And then everybody's happy. And then you all have a party.
Is that how it happened?
Yeah,
that's what I didn't endure sadness.
That's not what happened in my game. Man, I wonder. Yeah. I wonder what decision I made that led to the ending that I got, though.
I think it was that, and this was actually kind of lame because neutral characters got sort of screwed. And I typically go with sort of the mostly Paragon, but not completely Paragon route, because there are certain things that, in my opinion, are so Paragon that they're almost bad choices to make, because it's like you're being such a good guy that you're making an irresponsibly good decision. Like, if that makes any sense. I feel like you let certain people get away with things.
Well, you're being Ned Stark.
I guess.
And you end up getting beheaded.
Yep.
Spoiler!
But no, so in cases where it makes sense to make the renegade decision, I do. Like when it comes to kind of taking the law into your own hands, so to speak, and punishing someone who's so incredibly evil by killing them and not letting them get away. Like, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And so I'll do things like that, and it'll keep me from getting to that super Paragon point where you get to start making the really cool blue decisions. However, I guess I was Paragon enough to make the blue decision for that Geth thing, because I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was a colored decision where you had to have a certain number of Paragon points to make that decision. And I'm pretty sure that's what pretty much saved all the Geth and all of the Quarians. That's what they're called.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember, God, what were the options then for that? Because I thought I did the same thing that you did, and then in my game, the Geth killed all the Quarians.
Jesus.
And then,
ouch! I would reload my save. I would reload the whole game.
So
and just
we're
play it again.
standing on. God, I can't. Is it Rannoch? What was the name of the planet that she's from?
That sounds about right.
We're standing on her home planet, and she's watching her people's armada crash to the planet, like being blown up and falling down, crashing.
Okay.
So she turns to you, takes off her helmet, and drops off a cliff right in front of you.
Oh my God!
I was like, no!
Yeah, that just gave me chills.
Oh my God, I just...
Yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I know. I was like, I tried to do the right thing, man.
Jesus.
I think you're going to have to play that game again.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're going to have to start with 1, play through all of it.
Yeah, I actually recently bought one because I never had it on Steam.
Yeah.
So I recently picked it up on Steam.
It did have a pretty bad PC port from what I heard.
Oh, that's when I played it. That's the only time I played it. It was on PC.
Oh, it was just Steam that you hadn't had it.
I hadn't had it on Steam.
Oh, okay. Well, you're familiar with the PC port then, so that's...
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know what to compare it to.
Yeah,
so whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, I first played it on the 360, and another interesting story about the original Mass Effect, and sort of a testament to how great it is my girlfriend at the time that the first Mass Effect came out had not really been paying much attention to video games for quite some time. Like, she played more when she was younger and then just kind of fell out of it and hadn't really been into any games or really been much of a gamer. And then for some reason, something about it interested her and she picked it up and played it when I was visiting family for a week. And she just couldn't stop texting me about how amazing it was and how much she was loving it. And after finishing it, she's pretty much launched right back into being as much of a gamer as I am at this point in time. And so I think that is a really cool part of that game too. I feel like it's very accessible for people who have really enjoyed stories in other forms of media to kind of, like Hillary, our friend Hillary, for instance, who, funny coincidence, you mentioned also that you have your cat's named Tally. She had a cat. Unfortunately, the cat passed away at this point, but her cat was named Tally as well. And I think that using Mass Effect character names for animal names is a great idea.
Absolutely.
They still have a cat named Rex.
Shepherd.
Very nice.
Yeah, it goes Shepherd.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I saw a video that you made. I think it's your most recent video, perhaps, but it's about the Oculus Rift.
Oculus Rift roller coaster.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That looked like fun.
So, what do you think of the Oculus?
It really took me by surprise. I always wanted to play it at PAX, but I never wanted to stand in those insane lines for
right
it.
There with
and
you.
I was like, you know what? As soon as I saw that the development kit 2 was going to be released, I was like, I know I have at least another year and a half before they release their main product. So couldn't wait any longer. So I purchased it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I put it on, I played, it's like the Tuscany demo, where you're just walking through Tuscany.
Mm-hmm.
And the graphics were very, like, WoW-like, World of Warcraft-like.
Yeah.
So you're not thinking, wow, this is so real. But being enclosed and hearing all the, like, nuances and sounds and having it display to your eyes, it was really a trip. You really felt like you were there, but you also understood that it wasn't realistic.
Sure. So almost an uncanny valley.
Yeah. And so that roller coaster experience, you can easily logically tell yourself, I know I'm not in a roller coaster in a living room. Like, right. you can tell yourself that. But the speed and the way they do the subtle, like, jolts of the roller coaster, it felt real. The feeling of it was real.
Which is cool. I mean, that's what's happening, and I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's great technology.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Like, I don't ride roller coasters. And so it was like a real trip. Like, wow, I actually feel brave enough to look at the steep drop because I know I'm not really there, but my brain thinks that I'm there. And
you're not going to feel the G-force.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the next step, Bray, is to have, I don't know,
maybe I
need some fans blowing in my face.
Right. I was thinking, like, you mentioned that there was the demo. Where did you say that was? You're in Italy?
Yeah,
Tuscany. There needs to be sort of a device that creates smells. So, like, there's, like, you smell, pasta and garlic and just whatever would be in Italy. I'm just thinking Italian food. I'm just assuming that all of Italy just smells like Italian food all the time. So pizza and...
in Italy, they call Italian food.
Yeah.
Good point.
But yes, I get your point.
Yeah, that's all it takes is how can we progress this to
immersion,
fulfill all of our senses.
Absolutely.
Like, simulate all of our senses.
So
and then that's when things are going to get messed up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, people will probably get addicted to it because they're trying to just, like, be as far away from reality as humanly possible. So they'll be strapped to an Oculus with something creating smells, sitting in a force feedback chair, moving them around as they move in the...
I actually...
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One, exactly. But no, I was actually listening to a podcast recently that had... as much as people like to hate him these days, but it had Dan Cook on it. And Dan Cook was actually talking about how video games are progressing to the point where people are going to be basically rushing home from work so that they can live, essentially, because, you know, the experience is going to get so realistic and so much, I guess, better.
Yeah, well,
plus feel like that will be like living.
Well, plus it's such a contrast to what we're sort of forced to do on a day-to-day basis, just to like live is go to work, right? And nobody really likes their 9 to 5 anyway.
Yep.
So it's sort of additionally, it's a contrast to our kind of boring job. Of course, all we're going to think about is something that it's just positive feelings that you inject right into your face for a relatively low cost. Mm-hmm. You know, it makes sense.
So how many different games are available for it right now?
I think the only truly made for compatibility with the Oculus Rift right now is Star Citizen, which I have not played yet, along with, you know, thousands of other games I need to play.
Star Citizen, that's just like the fighter module or something, right? It's not the whole game yet, is it?
Correct. It's still being made.
Sure.
But apparently it's supposed to be amazing with the Oculus, so I need to try it. But
yeah, anything sci-fi, just being in a spaceship and just looking around space, like that's amazing. Because especially like when you think about how every astronaut ever always says, when you're up there and you're looking down at Earth, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Sure.
And it's like, now we can just kind of have the closest thing to that experience, if you think about it.
Yeah, and actually there was an indie game at PAX in the Indie Mega Booth. I don't know if you saw... You were at PAX this year, right?
Yeah.
You had a video for it.
Yeah, there was an indie game at the Indie Mega Booth. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a space fighter that used Oculus.
That sounds amazing.
I really wanted to try it, but it was like a 7-minute long demo or something, and only one of them, right?
Right.
So
see, I thought you were going to say 7-minute long line, and I was going to be like,
yeah, I would have waited in a second.
Lines suck.
No, it was like 6 people and 7 minutes apiece. I was like, that's like 45 minutes at least.
Then you do the math in your head.
That's right.
Which I wouldn't have. So
42, but I was giving it a little
I know, I'm joking.
Wiggle room. Anyway.
Yeah, Oculus looks really cool. Anna, have you heard of the Samsung Gear VR, I believe it's called? Yeah. See, I'm using a Samsung Galaxy Note 2 right now, and I've had it for a couple years, and so I'm just waiting to upgrade it to the Note 4. And the fact that the Note 4 is like the single phone that's compatible with Samsung's like portable Oculus is really exciting to me, because I already knew I wanted the Note 4, but that's just some incentive to get it, because then I can get the Gear VR, it'll be compatible, and the 4K screen on the Note 4 is supposed to actually really do wonders for the Oculus, which the test kits right now I think are like a quarter of that resolution. So I'm really excited to see how that also improves the experience with Oculus.
Yeah, that'll be... God. Can you imagine everyone just walking around with their...
Yeah, I thought about that. I'm telling my friends, like, when I get it, I'll probably just use it on the bus and stuff, but I probably won't, because I would look like a friggin' moron.
Your work lunchroom is like a bunch of people in the cafeteria with like their notes and their VR on.
Yeah, who was it? We were talking. Someone we had on the show before. We were talking about it with, and he was like, "Yeah, now we can look like stupid in public." Nick Wozniak. That's right.
Nick Wozniak. Yeah, it's like Google Glass. Like I still can't help but feel a little uncomfortable when I see people walking around with those on, which maybe is a little judgy, but it's just maybe because it's so different. I'm just not used to seeing those, and it's a one-off thing. Every now and then you'll see it, and there's a camera right there on their face, and it's almost like a Borg visor.
I don't know that I've actually seen it, to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen it once or twice now, and it really stands out. I mean, you know immediately when you see it, like, oh, it's a Google Glass. There's like, that person looks kind of like a robot that's spying on me.
Yeah, and one of it's like the unknown, right? Like if you're talking to someone face to face and they're gonna browse the internet, you visually see them take out their phone and scroll through their phone, and you can get a sense of what it is they're doing.
Definitely.
But with the Google Glass, you don't know if they're snapping a picture of you, if they're looking at something else. You don't really know if you have their full attention or what it is they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point too. I didn't really think about that, but that makes a lot of sense. You know, I mean, I'm sure there'll be certain things that you can kind of detect if you're the type of person that can notice certain details. So you might see them moving their eyes around a lot, you know, like little twitches of their pupils and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And plus, I imagine that certain aspects of it, to control it, it probably has to be linked Bluetooth to another device, I'm assuming, like a watch or a phone or something to do certain things on it, right? Because you still have to be able to type and stuff on it.
I honestly don't know.
Unless it's set up like Stephen Hawking style, where you can just like use where you're looking to.
You're just looking all over the place.
Yeah, so you just look like you're having a seizure. Yeah. I don't know, but I can't really dog on it too much because I like the idea of those sorts of technological advancements, and that's really what's important.
And the next step is context, right? You're not even going to know. Like, you're not even going to visually see, I know that person is wearing a high-tech device. You're not going to know, and that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, so then it does start to become a bit controversial in that regard, but at the same time, really cool. So it's hard to say. I mean, pretty soon we're just going to be name of cyberpunk franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, I was thinking between Blade Runner and Shadowrun.
Yeah. Somehow technology is going to create elves and dwarves and trolls, and then we'll be Shadowrun.
Well, no, because we'll create some sort of technological portal, and then those sorts of creatures will come out of the portal and then integrate with our society.
Or we're going to create a device that exposes them because they're already in our society. They're just disguised as humans.
I think you're just thinking of lizard people.
Well, they're they're one of many.
I'm actually curious, what made you decide to get into YouTube videos?
That is an excellent question. A few years ago, like, I'd always poke around on YouTube and I'd look at things here and there about video games and came across the section of YouTube where people talk about collecting, playing video games, kind of like, instead of just being a straight up guide for how to do something in a level. And I thought that was awesome. And so I kind of got inspired to do that because it was like, hey, I love doing that stuff too.
Yeah.
And the techno geek of me wanted to know. I didn't have any video recording skills, none of that. So I was like, hey, that'll be a practical application for me to learn that as well. And it's much more difficult than imagined. I don't think the learning curve is that high. It's the time expectation is a bit higher. You have to record and think about framing. You have to have a program where you can edit, whether it's free or not, and think about how to put shots together and then what format, how are you going to get the best audio. There's just so many layers that you can take it at a base level or you can try to execute at the highest level possible.
Definitely.
And you can just spend so much time on each episode too.
And money. Because you might not, like, you might start out by thinking, oh, here's all I'll need and I can get started. Then you start doing it and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed to improve on this aspect of it. I guess I have to buy this thing. Oh, wait, there's also this. I better buy these lights. Oh, wow, I didn't realize how bad my microphone was going to sound. And then it just ends up, one thing leads to another. And it's like, oh, well, now I have some of this good equipment. Why would I just use some good equipment, but just leave this part subpar? That's how my brain works, at least. I have a hard time, it's kind of all or nothing for me. Even if it's something that I can't even really consider a hobby yet. It's something I think I might want to get into, but I'm not sure. But I still feel like I have to approach it from the highest level. And that's a problem, obviously.
That is actually the problem I ran into with my previous channel. The first one that I started out with, I was so focused on, okay, how do I create the best content that one I think is actually really good? It's not even looking at everyone else. It's like, man, am I happy with that?
Oh, yeah.
And for me, because I was always thinking about that, it became very scripted for me. And I didn't realize it. Like, I saw my videos improving a bit, but I was just like, you're hearing all this information, but you weren't really capturing personality. And that's why we subscribe to the people that we do, right? We like hearing them talk about the video game because I'm sure there's someone out there who executes like the best Let's Play videos ever, but you're probably going to watch like 5, 10, 20 more from the people you love to watch.
Definitely. Yeah. So basically personality really shines through over, technical skill.
Yeah, and I think that's very, very true.
It's finding the right balance.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's hard though. Like,
it is.
I feel much better.
We know.
Yeah. No,
I think everyone struggles.
Yeah. I would love to get into doing some sort of like a vlog type channel. And I kind of did one a while back and I really enjoyed it, but it was a lot of work. And I thought I should just kind of keep going, you know, while I'm still motivated to do it. And unfortunately I didn't. And now when I really think about trying to get back into it, it's just really daunting, just for kind of all the reasons that we're discussing. You know, there's a lot of technical work that goes into it, but then you also have to try and make sure that your personality is shining through. So you have to be in the right mood, you know, to really be who you want to be on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I've tried to keep in mind for my channel now is, which I'm going to say this, but it totally didn't happen last week, is I have a goal for myself to do a new video every week. If I don't get to do the video that I want to do, I'm going to do like some sort of vlog.
Sure.
Because it becomes a habit, right? It's not something you even start to think about. You're like, oh man, I want to do the video. Not that I don't want to do it. I want to do tons of videos. Yeah. And that's the problem. But it's like, okay, can I shoot and edit a video in a week time and get it uploaded? But well, then that's kind of one goal for me.
Yeah, and I think as you continue to do that, you'll sort of build up an idea in your head of sort of what is more efficient than others in terms of usage of time. If you think, well, here's everything I have going on next week, so this is how much time I have left outside of that to make a video. Okay, well, then I better stick with this type of thing or that type of thing because I know that that's easier to edit, or I know that that'll just be a nice quick recording session and I won't have to do a lot of takes. You know, like you get a really good feel for which sort of things you can do quicker and which sort of things take more time, at least in my experience. But yeah, I know what you mean, and that's actually really good that you're trying to do that, to make one video a week. That takes a lot of discipline too, though, but it's a really smart way to do it. And I was going to say, you know, looking at your channel, you know, you've only been doing that particular channel for about 3 months, but I was impressed at the number of videos and just at the level of quality. I liked your thumbnails a lot, and really just from sort of a snapshot of your uploads page, it looked really professional. So I give you a lot of props for that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I had something to say like 5 minutes ago.
Whoops.
And I've been trying to
steamrolled you.
I've been trying to find a place to say it.
I've been trying to hold on to it, and it's been slowly floating away from me.
Well, is it even still relevant?
No. Oh no, I had it. Hold on.
And it's gone.
And it's gone. No, I was just gonna say, doing stuff like this, especially when you have a day job, time management is a huge thing, and it's difficult for people like us who are adult children, you know what I mean? Because if we weren't, we wouldn't be making these types of videos, you know what I mean? So it's difficult because
we'd be out doing
stocks.
And
yeah, we'd be doing YouTube videos about stock market. Now, you know, so it's just kind of like, it's tough. You got to find the right balance. You have to manage your time, and you have to work hard, as I'm sure you know. It's a lot of work, you know what I mean? The payoff is great when you make a video that you're proud of. And, you know, it gets a decent amount of likes and some comments, and that just makes you...
Within whatever your current expectations are.
Exactly.
So even
whatever,
if
it's all relative.
If 500 views to you is a lot, then it'll feel great no matter what.
Yeah. You know, if 50 likes is your goal and you get 50 likes, I mean, you got to be proud.
Plus, you work your way up to that. With each video you make, you kind of establish your brand a little more and your consistency. And that's actually something else I was going to say is, you know, to continue from what I was saying before, not to seem like I'm like over flattering or whatever, but just with how consistent your videos seem, I can really tell, like, just with the level of quality there, just keep it up. Like I can really see you building up more of a following for sure.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Kind of what you were saying, whether 200, 300, 400, whatever amount of views, to where you're like, man, I can't believe that many people watched my video. What's also nice about doing the videos is you get to connect with people who are either kind of right where you are, maybe they're a bit more established, or under, well, I don't want to say under, or
lesser than you.
The underlings, no. But you kind of see familiar faces, and you get the feel for the type of audience you have. You get to be in touch with a lot of people who everybody kind of watches each other's channels. You watch each other's channel grow and continue to have this dialogue, which is awesome. So you get to meet a lot of other people creating YouTube videos that not only are you fans of them, but they're fans of you. And it's just awesome to have that continuously happen.
For sure. And it's a great way to establish friendships, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, alongside that. And I hope anybody who's listening to this, who's actually interested in making YouTube videos, is taking something away from this too, and taking some advice here and
yeah, and I mean, honestly, to be entirely honest with you, shoot us a message on YouTube and we'll be happy to tell you what equipment we use, like, you know, how much time we spend on our videos and everything. I've actually encountered a few people on Reddit from videos that I posted on Reddit where they just wanted to do the same thing and ask for advice. And we're more than happy to tell you what, help you in any way that we can. So seriously, shoot us a message.
Yeah. If anybody who's listening has any questions for us, you can feel free to shoot us an email at nyg@sharktank.com. And that's shark with a C.
Yeah.
But let's keep the conversation.
Plug in ourselves.
let's keep the conversation going.
Anna? Why did I say that? That just came out really weird.
Such a formal question about to happen.
Do you Anna?
You probably Anna every day of your life.
Yeah, I pretty much Anna every day.
Sometimes you gotta Anna. The question that I was going to ask.
Does anybody ever call you Anna Banana?
Oh my God. I think they get the unamused face from me.
So Brandon just pop up, just the poker face.
Yeah, when Brandon told me your last name incorrectly, I was actually going to introduce you as Banana Care Bear.
Oh my God.
That would have been offensive,
but
Tim.
It turns out that that's not your name.
I just foiled your plan.
Banana curd?
Banana curd. Okay,
anyway, what was your question?
The question that I was going to ask is, do you play any tabletop games? Board games, card games, RPGs, anything like that?
I'm not an active tabletop gamer. I absolutely love them. I've played, Settlers of Catan, Munchkin, Ticket to Ride. I just picked up Forbidden Island? Or is it Desert? I think there's two.
Yeah, there's
I think I have Forbidden Island.
So Desert's the newest one. That's actually the only one I haven't played. So the guy who made the game Pandemic, and then he made Forbidden Island, which is kind of like a simpler version of Pandemic in a way. And then he made Desert, which was just a whole different thing. But Island, yes, I have that game. It's great.
Yeah. The problem is I don't have a whole lot of people who want to sit down and, it takes a little bit you have to be a little invested. You have to want to learn the rules of the game and all that stuff. And I absolutely love that. But getting 3 other people to do that is a little difficult for me, which I don't know why, because tabletop games are freaking awesome.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Where in the Seattle area do you live? I mean, we don't have to air that on the show.
My address is no.
Did you say Linwood?
What was your social security number?
Okay, so you're a little close to AFK up in Everett, and I guess Linwood's not super far away from the East Side area.
It can be tough because 4 or 5 can be nasty,
depending on the time of day. But they actually just they're opening. Have you heard of Cafe Mox and Card Kingdom by any chance in Seattle?
I've heard of Card Kingdom, but I have not been there yet.
Well, Cafe Mox it's connected to the same building. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're expanding, and they just opened a new location in Bellevue called Mox Boarding House, and it's supposed to be really cool. And I imagine because we live in Redmond, so we're pretty close to Bellevue, and we're probably going to go there and play games a lot. I like tabletop games to an extent. I have a hard time kind of focusing on tabletop games that are more drawn out and have a lot of rules, because I am 5 years old. But I do enjoy certain tabletop games, and Tim is completely and utterly obsessed with tabletop games.
Obsessed is a strong word. Like you were saying, the problem is getting people together to play, but I definitely have an abundance of games to play when people want to.
Well, I am down. Whenever you guys want to go, I am totally down.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So I guess this will take us back to video games. What is one game that you will never forget your first playthrough of?
First time you ever played it, you were like, wow, oh my God, amazing.
First thing that pops into my head is Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
And what was it about Vice City? Was that the first Grand Theft Auto game that you had ever played?
Yes, and I remember I was not old enough to own it. And I remember I didn't know that going into Target to purchase it. And when the guy asked me if he could see ID, as he's pulling me over, I'm like, what? He's like, you have to be 17. I was like, shit. And I had to try to explain to my dad that it was appropriate for me. And this employee did not help me at all. He's like, my dad's like, so what is this game? And the employee, I still remember it. He's like, this is pretty much the most violent video game that's ever been released. And I was like, come on.
What
it's a game where you kill people and fuck hookers and then kill them because that's what everyone thinks of.
That's the first thing that anyone ever says is you can have sex with prostitutes and then murder them.
And then steal, because that's
pretty much the game. I mean, come on. In Vice City, one of the things you can do is purchase a strip club. I mean, come on.
And then kill the whole strip club and then get all your money back.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then just wait for everyone to respawn and do it all over again.
Yeah, just kill the building.
Yeah, but I just remember I lied. Sorry, you guys. Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first one I played.
Okay.
And that game was, man, I remember playing that and frickin' some of those levels were difficult. Yeah. Say levels, I mean missions, but...
Yeah.
Well, it didn't help that Rockstar was still not so good at, in my opinion, some of the action gameplay, like the gunplay and stuff. Like, I always felt was really clunky in those games.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I didn't know the difference back then, though.
No, I was a bad
Yeah, but I was just so impressed with, one, the colors. It's like, wow, this game is so colorful. There's dialogue. I mean, Ray Liotta is in that game, and the controls were quite a bit better. You could do more stuff. And that's the first game where I would wake up before school an hour early so I could play it and then go to school and come back and play the game. That was the first game I did that for.
Final Fantasy VII for me.
Yeah, and all the missions, like, I loved playing that game.
Nice. Yeah, I really liked the inclusion of motorcycles.
Oh my god, the jumps.
Yeah, definitely. And the katana. The katana was so fun. I would run around in the middle of the street and just slice everything in sight. I remember I was playing the PC version. I was maybe, I don't know, 15, and I was playing the PC version, and my mom just kind of took a glance over at the computer when I was just murdering an entire block with a sword, and she got kind of upset. She was like, "What is that? What are you doing?" And I was just kind of like, "Oh shit!" And I had to minimize it and just kind of explain like, "Oh, it was whatever. Don't worry."
You like pulled up porn instead.
Yeah, and I was like, "See, this isn't as bad. See."
I can't say I had a similar experience, but in a way, I've never play that game when my mom was around. My mom wasn't strict, but she was very mindful about kids being impressionable. And even though I wasn't someone who watched, scary movies and was into gore or anything like that, video game, she probably felt pretty safe that I wasn't going to be influenced by video games. Yeah. But you can still question what the hell is happening in one. And I remember I was playing the game and I didn't realize my mom was watching. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was stealing a car. And I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to borrow this car." And I was crossing my fingers. Please don't be the cinematic where I punch the person in the face after throwing them on the ground. And sure enough, it was. And she's like, "You didn't borrow that. You just stole it." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I did."
Yeah, well, you can always take that stance where it's like, I don't do this in real life because I'm getting it out of my system in the game. If you just let me steal cars in the game, I'm not going to even need to steal cars in real life because I'm just getting it all done with right here. Which I think for some people, it might even be that, not to that extent, but that it's a little therapeutic, like you can really let off some steam playing games like that. So, I mean, I guess that's better than punching people in the face in real life.
I agree with that. And I think it's a tricky line to try to explain to someone because they might be like, "What? You feel like you need to punch someone in the game because you can't in real life?" Well, when you're someone who, for instance, in Mass Effect, you're total paragon, you're that person who always wants to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice to see without any negative consequences what doing the wrong thing is, like stealing a car. You're
encouraged to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, I'm obviously not going to do that in real life, but making that choice in a video game and feeling like I'm not going to get in trouble for this obviously isn't real, it's just a fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of nice to be able to let yourself do that.
Definitely. That's a really good point. It's a Grand Theft Auto game with a freaking morality system would be absolutely ridiculous.
What would the ending to that be if you were like Paragon? Like, what would that even look like? You're a real estate mogul and the town's doing great? Like,
maybe you become a police officer and...
Well, they kind of... I can't remember, I'm trying to remember Grand Theft Auto 3. It's been so long since I played it.
You're an escaped convict,
I think I might be confusing Grand Theft Auto 2 with Grand Theft Auto 3, but in Grand Theft Auto 2, you built reputation with the different gangs.
Yeah, you do.
And that's your Paragon Renegade. Are you with the Yakuza or the Triad or the Mafia?
Yeah, which one of these gangs has better
ethics?
Ethics, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. That guy screwed me over. Obviously, you want to fight with me because I'm going to do the right thing and kill him.
Yeah, I really liked the first 2 Grand Theft Autos, and I still do to this day. I love them a lot, but they're in such a different way. Like they're so different from 3 and onward.
They really are.
That they're sort of separated in my mind, and I feel like some of my love for the first 2 GTAs came through with the game Hotline Miami. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Many swear words were had with that game.
Yeah.
Love that game, though.
Oh, yeah. I love everything about it. Like, the combat did feel a lot like that sort of top-down combat in the original GTAs, but then just combined with that awesome sort of 80s style soundtrack and the trippy flashing lights and just, yeah, that game's really cool.
Yeah. Hotline Miami is fun. I see. That's why we had it.
Yeah.
That right there.
Because the words come out of your mouth almost backwards.
Yeah. Line Hot Miami. Or I am. Okay.
Just edit it backwards, reverse it, Brandon, in post editing, and it'll say Hotline Miami. Yeah. Guaranteed.
What if it did? Wouldn't that be weird?
That'd be a pretty cool skill. That'd be, I can say words legitimately backwards.
I don't know that that's that cool. Like, there's not a lot of uses for that.
That's true.
That reminds me of that scene in Top Secret. Have you ever seen that movie, Anna? Top Secret?
I have not.
Top Secret ! Have you ever seen Naked Gun or Airplane?
Oh my god. The first time I saw Airplane, I cried so many times throughout that movie from laughing so hard. That was totally up my alley for humor.
Okay, then you have to see Top Secret. It's the same guys, and it's what they made between Airplane and Naked Gun. Uh-huh. And there's this scene where they're supposedly speaking in German, but it's actually the scene played in reverse. So when they filmed the scene, everyone was like walking backwards and doing everything backwards. So there's parts where like the guy's just throwing a book onto a shelf instead of because in actuality, the book dropped into his hand. But in the scene, he's throwing it up onto the shelf. Yeah. And then they end the scene by going up a fire pole, and it's just like...
But going up the fire pole, isn't that what actually really clues you in, though? That it's... Like,
yeah, when you watch it, you're like... When you're watching, you're like... Exactly, you're like... This just seems weird, and then, yeah, exactly. That's when they're letting you in on the joke, is when they go up the fire pole.
Yeah, I think that movie has other things like that. Like, they continuously did really unique tricks like that. Like,
exactly.
Wasn't there a bar fight that ends up underwater? Filmed entirely underwater?
Yeah, there's a part where the guy drops into a river, and then it turns into an old Western bar fight. Underwater, like there's he drops down and then falls like onto a table where guys are sitting around playing cards, and then there's like a bar, and it's one of the most ridiculous things, but it's the exact same type of humor as Airplane and Naked Gun, and it's definitely a movie you should see.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
Are there any movies that are out or coming out soon that you are excited for?
See, I have a hard time. I love movies, but I have a hard time justifying the ticket cost now for the movie.
No, I completely understand.
So it has to be kind of like you said, something you're so jazzed about.
Yeah.
And I honestly have no idea what's coming out. People are talking about, oh man, gotta go see Interstellar at the IMAX. Yep. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I'm one of those people who I'm like, oh, I'll catch it on Netflix.
Definitely. And that, like, Interstellar especially, like, I'm hearing so many mixed things about it. I'm hearing that it's amazing. It's an experience that must be had. And then I'm hearing that it's just completely convoluted, and there are parts of it that just make such little sense that it's irksome. And I'm just like, man, do I A, want to spend like $20, and B, sit in an uncomfortable chair for 3 hours for an experience that may potentially be bad? And yeah, it's a really tough call. Like, we have a really fancy theater around here called iPick.
Oh my God. I went there recently.
You're familiar.
Yes, the most comfy seats. I was like, yes, if I go to a movie, I'm going to go to like iPick or there's Cinnabar near me, which is another 21 and over, and that is best experience.
Totally, yeah. And
Cinnabar, is that what it's called? Cinnabar? That's so funny.
Like Cinnabar Island and
Pokemon. I think Pokemon every time.
There's actually a tabletop RPG called Cinnabar, and it was made by a guy from Seattle. Oh. And one of my coworkers used to be in a band with him. Oh. I can't remember the guy's name. It's something weird like Raven, like is his first name. Yeah. It's really bizarre. Anyway, that's kind of off topic.
Yeah.
Off task. What am I doing?
Interesting factoid though. But the thing about going to those luxury theaters is that they typically cost more too than your standard theaters, and especially if you do the iPick and then you upgrade to the recliner seats, which is what I would probably do if I were sitting there for 3 hours. It's like $27, and I'd hate to drop almost $30, and then I'd probably get food and drinks too, just because I'm there and they serve that, and why not? Then you know, I would hate for all of that to go to a movie that I end up not liking. I do want to see Big Hero 6 though. I'm a really big fan of Disney's CG films, and I've heard it's really good. Yeah. So that's one I probably will go see. I've got a Fandango gift card. I might as well use it.
That sounds like a good one. One thing that I'd say about kind of what you're talking about, how you go to one of the nicer theaters and then the ticket price just keeps kind of going up, whether you want a more comfortable seat, you're going to get food, all that stuff. Yeah. It really, like, one thing that I do like about something like iPick is when you're tired of spending like $15 for a normal movie theater seat and you kind of know what to expect with that. It's like, okay, if I'm going to be selective with the movies I'm going to see, treat it more like an experience and have the expectation that it's almost like going to a play or, you know, a concert, to where you are going to kind of have that all in one. But it's definitely not something that I would do all the time, but
for sure,
it's kind of, at first I didn't think movie theaters like that would survive, but I think because ticket prices have gotten to where they are, people are making that switch of, you know what, I'll spend that extra money to have that nicer experience because I can buy the movie, all that stuff, but I can't necessarily sit in a very nice theater all the time.
Definitely. And plus, I mean, in my opinion, there really are only a small handful of those really, really interesting or really good looking movies coming out on a yearly basis anyway. Yeah. So it's like, really, if there are only going to be 2 or 3 or 4, you know, really big hits, that's only 2 or 3 or 4 times a year that you have to drop $30 to have it, you know, to experience it in the best possible way. So that is a really good way of looking at it for sure.
Well, anyway, it's getting kind of late, so we should probably start wrapping it up. So there's a certain way that we close out every podcast, and that is by asking you a question. And it's a question that the previous guest came up with, and then we task you with coming up with a question for our next guest.
Yep, and it's not necessarily really related to anything in specific, but usually the questions are about video games. It's just up to the guest.
More often they have been, but we encourage you to ask about anything you want.
So what was the question, Tim, from the previous guest?
The question from our previous guest was, think of 2 protagonists from games.
2 different games.
2 different games, 2 different protagonists, and what's the most interesting swap you can think of? As in, like, putting Mario in the Zelda universe and Link in the Mario universe, or, you know, something like that. It's kind of a weird question, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's the character would have all their normal abilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can even think of like the gameplay in the other game's world and how that might be affected by the gameplay brought from the character itself.
Right.
That's a tough question.
It is really tough. I think my answer was swap Mega Man and Jim Raynor from StarCraft.
I think, okay, they're not 2 main characters.
That's fine.
So, of course, like, immediately that may not answer the question.
Well, it technically was protagonists, but that is okay. There's
the protagonist doesn't have to be the main protagonist, right?
Yeah. Okay, this would be cruel, but I think it would be a hilarious way to experience both of these games. What if you swapped Navi with Claptrap? I mean, like, Claptrap, like, is going around being like, hey, buddy, you know? And then in Borderlands, Navi's like, hey, and just want to, like, shoot.
I was going to say, Borderlands just got a little duller, for one.
And Zelda got spiced up a little bit.
I would love Claptrap in
Zelda.
Oh my god. Just all the funny things that Claptrap would say or do.
And Link wouldn't respond to any of them.
Yeah. Claptrap would like hey! try to high five Ganon and oh my god. Like gets kicked into a volcano. I just Yeah,
no, that's a really good choice.
That would be fun.
I think that's my answer.
That's a good one. I like that.
Awesome. So, what do you think your question might be for our next guest?
Let's see here. I'd probably ask, what game system do you have the most nostalgia for? It doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite one, but what game system do you have the most memories for?
That's a good question. So,
that's a good question.
As we always do, we flip it on the person asking the question. What's your answer, Anna?
I would probably say the Nintendo 64.
Okay.
I grew up with Nintendo systems. I didn't get a PlayStation 2 until my teens, and so I missed out on, like, not that Nintendo didn't have great RPGs, but I kind of missed the whole Final Fantasy train.
Sure.
But I still played the N64 just about every weekend with my best friend throughout junior high and high school, and we would play mainly Mario Kart and just play the hell out of that game. I don't think I could play that game as much as we did back then now.
Oh, I love Mario Kart 64.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too.
We would do anything we could think of, like the jungle level with the steamboat. We would we'd ignore the race and would just try to go off that jump and see if we could land on the boat and like what areas we could land on the boat.
Sure.
And that's just like, and then, Ocarina of Time, just I have so many memories for that system.
I played a ton of Nintendo 64 as well. I can really remember just the hours and hours we spent playing GoldenEye 64.
Yes.
There are a lot on there. Banjo-Kazooie, played a ton of that. And, Mario 64, of course. Yeah, there.
Of course.
Well, I feel like anybody that... What?
It's Mario 64.
Just the way you said that was funny.
What is that game?
No, I actually went from the NES to the GameCube. I never owned a SNES or 64.
Oh. I had an SNES for a short period of time, but most of my SNES playing was on friends' consoles.
Yeah. I did have a Sega and, a PlayStation, that kind of stuff. So it's not like I wasn't gaming. It's just, in terms of Nintendo, I was only played the 64 at friends' houses, so it was mostly GoldenEye, Mario Kart, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The heavy hitters.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you so much again, Anna, for, being a guest on our show. We really appreciate your presence here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really fun chatting about games and movies and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, we love talking about it. We could do it for hours. Where can people find you, Anna?
They can find me on the internets. They can find me on YouTube, Circuits and Coffee. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, pretty much anything you think of. Just search.
Your Circuits and Coffee on all of those platforms?
Circuits and Coffee or Circuits_Coffee, because the and won't fit by one character.
Oh, no.
I know. But yeah, if you just go to my YouTube page, you can pretty much find all of my other links to the interwebs.
Awesome. All right. So this was Dane.
And I'm Tim.
And thank you so much for listening to Name Your Game. It's been a long time coming, but our show is now available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Blubrry. Blubrry. So you can pick your poison. We work on several other projects here at SharcTank.com. That's Shark with a C. We're a nonprofit, volunteer-driven gaming and geek culture site based in Seattle, Washington. We do local convention coverage, Let's Plays, tabletop strategy, and game reviews, among other things. If you'd like to support the show, rate, comment, subscribe, like on whatever you're listening to us on. You can leave feedback and suggest future guests through comments on YouTube, on our site, or you can email us, like we mentioned earlier, at nyg@sharktank.com.
Catch you later.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.